Hello, everyone. Good evening. I hope everyone is doing well today because we are going to, as I stumble, we are going to unravel some sock blanks. These are some commercial knit pick sock blanks that I dyed with some really fun techniques for the sock blank special that is going to start next week. On Sunday night, I don't remember what time. I'll have to double check the schedule. There's a link to the schedule in the video description. But I will be kicking off on Sunday night, the Sock Blank special. And then every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we'll have a Sock Blank live stream that will feature both the Knit Pick Stroll double knit blanks and some homemade blanks in various, single knit, double knit, crochet, different weights, different fiber contents. And so it'll be a lot of fun. And I am really, really excited about it. But in addition to the live streams, there will also be a pre-filmed episode every day. And so, for something like ice dyeing, that live stream would not be super riveting. We'd be watching ice melt for like 5-6 hours. So therefore, I thought some things lend themselves better to a pre-filmed episode. And that way, also, if life happens and I am forced to postpone a live stream, then there'll be some new fun content and inspiration as you guys prepare to dye your own sock blanks at home. Yay, I'm glad you made it. Yeah, no, it's I know that it can be late in some areas, but maybe some more East and West Coast people will be able to catch me tonight. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Now I don't know if you were to order sock blanks tonight from Knit Picks. I don't know unless you were to rush it if you would get them in time for the sock blank special. But the affiliate link is in the is in the video description. So then you can. Oh, I don't know. Hopefully everything is going through okay. I was just looking at the settings, but the affiliate link to the Bear sock blanks is in the video description. Now, if you're new to the concept of sock blanks, what are they? So a sock blank is a pre-knit piece of fabric that you dye, and you could dye it in any kind of way. And so, you could draw a picture on it, you could dip dye, stripes, kettle dye. There's so many different things that you could do, but then you can unravel it to then knit with the yarn. So it's a dyer's tool. And these blanks are made with 2 strands of yarn knit together. So that way when we unravel it, we will end up with 2 identical 50-gram skeins of yarn, which is perfect for whatever random pattern you dye, because the yarns that we unravel from this from this blank will result in, with these 2 identical skeins, you can get identical socks, mittens, anything like that. You could even use it to make a symmetrical cowl or scarf and have, a pretty wild and crazy fun pattern. Oh, I'm sorry your toddler is sick. But welcome. Yeah, so this one I dyed with ice cubes. And I used both some Kool-Aid and some food coloring. But I don't think you can really, there we go, appreciate the subtle yellow specks, and you can kind of see the negative space from where the ice cubes were. And so it's really fun. So I think I'm going to start with unraveling this one. So the way I like to do this is, and are we together yet? I like to use, I use PVC pipe knitting knotties for a lot of my work. You just made blanks on a flatbed knitting machine. Woohoo! So normally when I wind things, I wind it around like a 1-foot knitting knotty, and I'll have it in the 2 ends perpendicular from one another. But when I'm unraveling 2 skeins at a time, I like to extend this bar. This is a 2-foot bar in the middle. So then I can wind one of the 50-gram skeins around one side and one around the other. And that way I can kind of keep them separated from one another. And yeah, there is a video with how I made my knitting knotties and all the parts you need on the channel. And I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to say. I'll talk more about the other blanks. I don't know if I'm going to get to all three. Well, because I only have two of these nitty naughties. So that might affect how much I'm able to do. But oh, so someone wanted me to mention, oh, and I start by, you see I pulled these ends off and I'll put one end of each of the yarns kind of inside the tube a bit. So that way it just sort of holds it in place so I can unravel with ease. But so someone mentioned today, I am signed up for Super Chat, which, I mean, there's not usually that many people in the chat, so you don't necessarily need to use it to have your comments show up. But it is a way that it's kind of like a tip jar as well, I guess. It's a way that you could give contributions to the channel as well. Oh, good. I'm glad you got a nitty naughty. So the thing I like about these strobe blanks is look at how easily this unravels. I think the last unraveling I did was, and look at how the color's a little, you can't really see, but how identical those strands are. The last, I think, skein that I unraveled was my crochet blank that I dip dyed. And so that was a little harder to unravel. But with this one, you know, it's just laying on the back of the couch and I'm just flipping this over and it's going. And so I also like, as I do this, to sort of, as I go, so we can see the gradient, I'll kind of push the yarn a little bit to the outside. So that way we can visualize the way the gradient is unraveling. So I have a few tutorials on the channel for making your own blanks. And in one of them, I made a double-stranded stroll blank. Did I do stroll in the video? Yes, I think I did a double-stranded stroll blank from a center pole ball. And it worked fine, but it was a little more of a pain to unravel than one of these commercial blanks. And as I get stuck. And that's because it was a little more of a pain because when you are using both ends of the center pole ball, the outside end kind of wraps around the inside end. And so it can be harder. Therefore, it was just a little more effort to unravel. But this is super easy. But you can see, can you see the, I guess you can kind of see the reds come out. And so things are just perfectly identical. And so when I was doing this, each of these sections, I think this was only 6 drops of food coloring for those blue, or maybe 5 or 6 drops for the blue. So these were a mixture of, this was just the yellow McCormick's food coloring that gave us this orange. Some of these, I think one of these was red, one was neon pink, and then some of the other neon colors are what I used there. Yeah, it's going to have a lot of, it's a very bright, someone commented at one point, it feels very spring. I think these splotches, from the way the food coloring melted around the ice, almost feel like flowers to me. But we're different with this one. Sometimes it's hard to think about what you'll get, but you can see that we're getting these splotches. So there's going to be, it's going to be a very variegated splotches of color throughout. So you can kind of visualize how if you're going to do socks, how you'd have like red, green, and this orange patches, and then it sort of transitions into the different colors as you go through. But that's why sock blanks are fun. And I'm trying to not do everything in my favorite purple colorway, even though I do have another purple one tonight. Hello from Australia, isn't it? Or is it morning there now? I think it's 17 hours difference, 16 or 17, or no, maybe it was 14. I don't quite remember what the time difference is from when I was over there. But yeah, I actually lived in Queensland, Australia for 5 months. I went to UQ on an exchange program, and I lived at St. John's. And so I liked the water taxi or boat the water, whatever, the water ferry, public transportation. So fond memories. Hello, welcome everyone. When you dyed your sock blanks, they are identical, but you notice one strand is duller than the other. Um, oh, that's interesting that one would be duller than the other. Because in theory, with each stitch, they would have an equal chance of being on the top. So it's possible that for any given speck, that one might be slightly bigger than the other. Let me see if, okay, so I don't know if you guys would really be able to see this because, there's, so like the overall, the color changes are the same, but are they 100% perfectly identical? Not necessarily, but when you knit them up, they will look pretty identical. So yeah, I'm not sure why one would look duller than the other. I guess what weight of yarn were you using in your blank? Because maybe if it was a much thicker yarn, that could affect. But I would say overall, for one being uh, paler than the other, duller than the other in color, it's hard for me to visualize why that would necessarily happen. Oh man, 2 a.m. That's commitment. Thank you for joining. Oh, but yeah, I really enjoy sock blanks, and I like just kind of holding on to and seeing the yarns, holding on and seeing the just like matching skeins of yarn. But so you can see we're getting these really cool speckles, and that's because, oh, I guess I should show the back. So this one actually has reasonable color penetration on the front and back. Sometimes, and well, that's why I don't know if I'll get to this one tonight, but so you see like the color on one side, but check out the back. There's so little color on the back that I know that this gray sort of gradient one will be a massive gradient of specks. You don't always necessarily get speckles. Well, you always get maybe some amount of speckling of tone in a blank, but you can end up with something that is much more solid than what I've been doing. But I've been doing some techniques that kind of explore with, that leave some white patches behind, and so then therefore you get white specks on your yarn. But if you were going to do some dip dyeing and kettle dyeing, you might end up with some really subtle variations of tone based on the way that the dye kind of penetrates the stitches, but you will not necessarily see any white. It just depends on the technique that you're doing. It was Sock Weight and Knit Picks brand, but you used Kool-Aid. Huh. Send me a picture of it. Right, because I'm curious. You can. I'd like to see the yarn and how they turned out, because so it was a Knit Picks blank, or was it a homemade blank? So that, yeah, that's odd to me that they'd be so different, because mine have been, like I don't think that there's a tonal difference between the two. Oh, there we go. I have to when I'm looking at the stream, it's hard for me to move what direction. But aha, we're starting to blue. Ooh, that's some cool colors. Let's see if I can get, maybe if I, there we go, move it in front of my face. You can kind of see the green specks. It was a Knit Picks blank. Okay, then that's odd to me. I've dyed, I guess I have dyed one with, the video hasn't come out yet. I unraveled one that I dyed with Kool-Aid in one of the last live streams, because I did some snow dyeing of blanks. And there's a live stream where I unraveled a homemade one and a commercial one together in the same stream, because I dyed the two of them together. And so that video, I forget what day that video is coming out. I think, so Monday is the Dye Pot Weekly episode. I think Tuesday is a dip dyed crochet blank, and so therefore Wednesday is probably the snow dyed sock blanks, and then one of these will probably be Thursday and Friday, And then this might be held in reserve or become a Dye Pot Weekly episode, depending on how things go. Have you ever considered painting both the front and the back of the blank, like different colors or designs? That would be really interesting. I think that that would be something that would be really fun to do if it was a technique that you knew wasn't going to penetrate all the way. Like, say, using the color mist sprays or something, because since those don't really penetrate the whole way through, then you definitely could try doing the front and the back and do a different design on each. Ooh, maybe I should try that on the sprays day to sort of give a little twist. That's a really fun idea. Ooh, I'm intrigued. Thank you. Thank you, Rainbow. But for if you were hand painting, say with like a sponge or a squeeze bottle, the dye would go through enough. Like on this one I sort of folded and into some squares and then dip dyed. And so this one, you see, if I was going to paint the front and the back, it wouldn't necessarily do much. Of course, you could. Ooh, that's something else I should do. I could dip dye a skein and then spray paint it. Oh, I did that once. But even so, you could do something so that way you don't end up with white speck. What did I? Oh, there we go. You could do something so you don't end up with white specks. But if you were to dye, even just like kettle dye, immersion dye, the whole thing, and then do a technique that has light coverage on it over it, you would end up with a different color versus white for your speckling. Welcome! You guys are watching from all over tonight. That's awesome. So, and it's still unraveling easily. I need to just move it lower because that's my issue. There we go. Move it onto the couch. But overall, I'm not needing to clamp it to anything. It's just sort of unraveling nice and easily. I really like this purple. It's sort of like there's a section here where I'm pretty sure you can see that there's a tiny bit of breaking up there. But there's also some different coverage from the pale yellow that's over this. So it's fun. Very, very spring-like. What's my favorite dye to use? I would say that my favorite dye is probably Wilton's Violet Food Coloring, just because I love that from one purple dye bath, I can get some really, really intense blues and pinks. If you saw, I don't know if you watched my last live stream, but when I dyed the Bare Imagination yarn from Knit Picks, I dip dyed it in Wilton's Violet, and it's probably the most beautiful broken violet gradient I think I've ever got. The blue is just electric, and it's so pretty. But that that one I did in the most recent live dyeing live stream, and so I just uploaded a recap to that this evening. The videos are addicting. Hey, dyeing yarn can be it's just soothing, and it's fun to I really especially enjoy dip dyeing because it's just kind of soothing. But when you're dip dyeing, what I've learned now is if you're dip dyeing with superwash wool, it goes really, really fast. If you're dip dyeing with silk or alpaca, it goes a lot slower. So you sort of need to be a little prepared. It might be worth even like wrapping your yarn around a tong and slowly kind of unraveling it as it goes in, sort of like almost like a candle dipping. Well, I guess you don't quite do that with candle, but yeah. So the other dye that I've been loving, and this is some jacquard black and silver gray. Those are some of my favorites right now, just because I can't achieve those colors with food coloring. It's just not, I have gotten close to a true black once, and sometimes grape Kool-Aid can read as read as sort of a gray, but it's just not. I think it's something that you can do if you carefully layer the colors, but because of the way colors break, it's just, ooh, I snagged it. I'll have to file that down. Good thing. Oh, the yarn's not broken or anything, so that's good. But yeah, you can see that this, how long have I been on? 19 minutes, and I'm most of the way done. This is significantly faster than the homemade blank from the second pull ball. But I expect that the homemade double-stranded blanks I've made, starting with 250 grams balls of yarn, will unravel this easily. The homemade double-stranded blank I did from the center pull ball unraveled easily. That part wasn't the issue. The issue, I guess, was since they were twisted around each other, it was separating the strands into the 250 gram skeins. It was hard. Yes, this is the ice dyed blank that I'm unraveling right now. And we're coming up into the purple now. And so this one was fun because I think that there's a gradient to it, but that there's some consistent colors all the way throughout. So it's not going to feel like you switch skeins of yarn. So it's all one yarn. And I guess sometimes it feels like if the change is too abrupt, it almost feels like, oh, you had a color change in there or something. And it's still fun and pretty, but I wanted it to feel nicely balanced. And so that's why I also did the green again. But it's sort of a fun little gradient. But yeah, I really like doing these unravelings live just because it's sort of fun to see how it all comes together, and it's a good chance to chat. Or when things don't quite go right, then you get to see me be a little frustrated. And so it's real. I'm not doing any hand waving magic behind the scenes. I try to keep it as real as I can so you can see how fun and easy it is to do on your own. So the other fun thing about this yarn is that depending on what you're making out of it, you could get, even with the like variegated sort of specks of color along here, you could end up getting some pooling of the specks depending on your gauge as you're knitting. And so I always think that's pretty fun. But yeah, so again, like a lot of the ones I've been doing right now have had a lot of negative space, a lot of undyed space. So that's why overall they tend to have some paleness to them. But you can dye a blank however you want. I've just been enjoying experimenting with the white left behind and how that plays into these colors, because I couldn't hand paint a gradient like this without a blank. I couldn't get this gradient of speckles and different colors going through without starting from a pre-knit piece of fabric, which is currently just resting on my knee, and so you can't really see it anymore. Am I going to tackle using guar gum next week? Yes, I plan to try it in the stamping and stenciling video. I think I want to try, when I'm doing that, I want to try stenciling using just straight, almost straight, like Wilton's icing color, because that's pretty thick to begin with. But then I also want to try like with some liquid color, see with a foam brush, because sometimes when I've been doing a foam brush versus like a squeeze bottle on the blanks, the lines actually stay pretty, like they don't bleed a lot from there. So I just kind of want to, we're going to use a blank as like a sketch pad. And so we'll try a bunch of things and see what works, what doesn't work. And I mean, since I'm planning to unravel it, it doesn't matter. But if you want to give it that way, we can, we'll figure out all together the best way to do it. So I think that will be fun. And I'll probably bring the stencils back out when I do the sprays again, because I think using the stencils with food coloring sprays and the misto and some of these other spray bottles I have would be a fun way to do some stenciling. So guar gum is a thickener. It's something that is food safe. I think that people use it in protein shakes and stuff, but dyers and I guess like people who do screen printing and stuff will use it to thicken up the dyes. So that way, when you paint it onto your fabric, or in this case, our sock blanks, it won't bleed and you won't get sort of like a halo. So it also, when it comes to hand painting yarn, apparently can be handy to prevent breaking. So like if I were to hand paint something with Wilton's Violet, you would see uh, the breaking that you would see is because the dye, like you apply the dye to the yarn, and then some of it binds right away, and then some of the color diffuses a little further before it strikes to the yarn. So if the color is going to kind of stay exactly where you put it, and you don't get that little bit of bleeding, then you might not see breaking on hand painting. So therefore, you might actually be able to have an easier time getting black from black food coloring and purple from Wilton's Violet. When you do ice dyeing, do you ever use ice chips instead of ice cubes? Yeah, I think so. I think ice chips. Oh, and it's since this one's basically all gone now, I can't really show what it looked like before. So doing the ice cubes, you could definitely see. I didn't get. I filled a whole like one of those white basins that I use for soaking yarn with ice cubes, and even that, I got coverage all over the yarn, but I did not get like, you could still access the blank through. So things, when I was sprinkling on the Kool-Aid, some of it could hit the yarn pretty fast. Versus if I were using snow, then it would take longer for it to get through the snow and hit. So I think if you were going to use ice chips, then ice chips would probably be a little more comparable to snow. Using the ice cubes, it was very it was cool. It would be fun. Like I think that the different even types of ice cubes, like if you used a lot of spheres or something, that you could get different kinds of melting patterns. But you saw that, so I added the big splotches of color came because I added a single drop of food coloring directly on top of the ice cube, and it sort of like some of it like kind of melted into the cube, and so that's why you didn't really get the negative space where the cube was in those spots, whereas the Kool-Aid sort of more melted and went down around the edges as well. Yay! Making a blank while watching me unravel a blank is a great thing to do. So you can see that we've got sort of these purple and green, and then we go into this red and blue, and I don't know which one was red and which is pink, and then the pink and green on the other side. So we've got, color changes, but overall, if you were to turn this, say, into socks, you'd have something that felt like it was one, there's a cohesion to it. And I think that it would be really fun. You're imagining ice cubes with, oh, right. So yes, I use just water ice cubes, not dyed ice, like food coloring ice cubes. I'd like to do that at some point too. I think that if you can't, for example, if you don't have access to Easter egg dye tablets and you want to play around with inserting them into a cake of yarn, you can maybe freeze like thin ice cubes of dye, and then with a dry cake, insert them into the cake and then put it in a dye bath. So then they'd melt and you'd get the dye in the different spots. And I think that would be cool. But this is our pretty yarn, egg dye tablets that were all smashed together. Wait, I think I may have missed. So egg dye tablets that were all smashed together. Can I use it if I put it in a shaker and sprinkle it on? Sure, why not? The one thing about the egg dye tablets that we discovered recently, and I think I'm gonna, in a second, just get started. So the thing that we discovered about the Easter egg dye tablets recently is that some brands, and I think Easter Unlimited, like the RJ Rabbit brand, has citric acid in them. So you don't need to add quite as much vinegar. Whereas the POS, which I learned POS, I guess, means Easter in Dutch. But the POS Easter egg dye tablets have sodium bicarbonate, but no citric acid. So they're actually basic, and they will raise the pH of your dye bath. So therefore, that's why you need a lot more vinegar with those tablets. Because for a while I was using, because I bought so many, the other brand. And so when I kind of switched to the POS brand, things were behaving differently, and it was confusing me. And it's because of the pH, and so you need more vinegar. So if you're going to hand paint with these to try to speckle, I would, if you're going to pre-soak a blank, use like a lot of vinegar in your pre-soak. So yeah, I mean, anything is worth playing around with. But I'm actually gonna, I think, send you guys to a brief commercial break. Some of you will see a commercial, some of you might not. And I'm gonna grab a glass of water, and then I will tell you a little bit about this blank, and we will start unraveling it. So I will be right back. Ow. As my head creaks. Yeah, I would be curious to do, I am curious how much food coloring when you're doing ice or snow dyeing strikes to the yarn without heat, because sometimes with, especially with the stroll, things can strike so fast before you've even started adding the heat. So that's something I'd be curious about. Oh, but all right. So yeah, this first one is pretty awesome. And I think the next one will probably, in some of these more solid areas, see some, like, we'll see some speckles, maybe some, I don't know if we'll see a lot of breaking, but we might see some like lighter purple and stuff in there. And then, well, we'll get some speckles in some of these areas, which I'll talk about in a sec. But so it'll have a different feel from this one. All right, so this blank is one that I used, and I forget the name exactly, but Wilton has some food coloring markers. And so I thought, oh, it would be really, really fun to try to write a message with the markers. The problem with it is that writing on knit fabric is really hard. Or like, this kind of knit fabric, just because it stretches, it moves. So therefore it's really, really hard to actually write. But the thing that is really cool is, even if you can't necessarily read my writing here, because I mean, my handwriting's bad anyway, but look at how well defined these lines are. So, and again, when it comes back to when we're talking about stenciling and stuff, using these food coloring markers could be a way to add a border, or if you're drawing something that's detailed, adding like, some defining features, like if you're, or a border or something to your project. And of the 5 colors, the black broke a little bit in sort of a nice, cool, like maybe in this one. Yeah, you can't really see. I can't really get you close enough. But there is some breaking in the black. And so this was the one where I had it folded. Actually, I don't think I even folded it. I came out of the package like this. And so I just dip dyed it like this to get the overall shape. And see, I'm giving you all these spoilers on the techniques too, but you'll be able to see all that in the video. And I forget, so I let Keith pick the colors of the background. What I wrote are some lyrics from one of the songs that his band played, and I'll play the song in the video as I'm trying to write. But I think I only got 3 lines of the song on here, and I thought I would be able to write the whole song. I was ambitious. But I wasn't going to, initially he picked violet, and I was like, no, I should do something not violet. But I think he picked burgundy and royal blue. And so it's definitely more pink than Wilton's violet is. But I thought it was funny that I went from not doing violet and then ended up with something that was still purple. So you recently space dyed a skein of merino cashmere nylon with 4 pass tablets, and you used citric acid, and the dye bath cleared quickly. Awesome. I think with citric acid, it might be easier to just like add. I think it might be easier to add more citric acid versus like volume of vinegar. Might feel weird. It's funny. I use citric acid when I dye with Kool-Aid, all the time, and I have citric acid in the house. I've been so comfortable with the vinegar that I haven't switched yet. So, anyway, ooh. Okay, so even in this pale section, let me see if you can see. So I just started unraveling it. And you see how there's really, really subtle specks on this yarn? You use citric acid for your experiments because your husband doesn't like the smell of vinegar. Hey, that's great. And that's, absolutely personal preference plays into this, like all these fiber crafts a lot. And you are going to go, okay. I was like, where'd my focus go? Okay, so and again, I'm going to stick both ends of the yarn into, kind of hold it in here. And since the yarn comes off of the blanks really crimped, I will wet this before, I will wet these before I sort of twist them into skeins. But yeah, but I guess if you want to search for the song is Oasis by Free Parking Band. And the channel Sandry 3080 has a lot of their live performances. If you want to check it out. Can you see the bottom of this? Yeah, I need to play around more with citric acid and get a good handle on it. I know a lot of people prefer it. I personally don't mind the smell of vinegar, but I like citric acid I make fizzy bath balls and stuff for, yeah, and so that's what you guys, this is cool. Oh man, so right away, I mean, we are in this pale section anyway, but look at that. We've got some definite speckling already. You still add extra if soaking first. Oh, soaking. Ha. Okay, so I'm sort of in one of the lines of text. And so the speckles from the text are going to be really, really subtle in here. And so I tried to use all the different colors of the markers because I wanted to sort of see how that would lend itself through the way that this unravels. But I am excited. And I also, since I've done a lot of like overall gradients, I wanted to do something that was a little different. Ooh, here's the green coming off. So, and I thought with these markers, since writing the text was hard, but you could do like a horizontal line or a diagonal line with them for just some like fun pop of specks that would be kind of fun. Yeah, so I don't even know if they'll read well on camera right now because the specks are just so subtle. Maybe the reds and the blues will pop a bit more. I mean, I definitely see the hints of green in here, but, I don't know, like if it really shows up for you guys. Oh, no problem with spelling. Seriously, I have a lot of spelling issues. Oh, the blue shows up against the purple, I think, the best. Well, the red, the green kind of stands out too, but the blue really sort of made a little bit of a mark. But yeah, because each is only really a couple rows of the blank is what it went on. And I think the colors of the food coloring markers were black, red, brown, green, and blue were the 5 colors. But there's also another package that they offer that has some other color options, but I don't remember what those are. I mean, the markers are expensive, but so if you have like a coupon or something, it's worth it. But, I had to test everything out because then like it's a different source of food coloring. We got to see what happens. But yeah, I mean, so the extra colors, let me get really close. There you go. I don't think it's focusing on the yarn yet though. But you can sort of see the extra colors in there that's just really subtle. And so part of the thought of this is that, so if you make, and I don't know if this would, if you were going to make, say, socks for your daughter, your husband, your mother, your father. And you could write them like a little love note or put the lyrics to their favorite song on it as you dye the yarn. And then when you unravel it, you know the lyrics are there. And if you give them like a picture of what the blank looked like or something before, with the present of socks or something, it makes the garment that you made sort of have a hidden message to it. And so that's just another fun thing that you can do with a blank. And so these colors, it's funny, they didn't break it's sort of I've got like a paler purple. I think there was enough red in there that I didn't really get a full, on camera this looks a lot bluer than it is. It's much more of a pink. Actually, I'm not filming a recap for this live stream because I'm going to have the whole video, so you'll be able to see that. But yeah, so right now that we're coming into this darker section, we're still seeing some speckling in there. It's just more like now it's maybe a hint of blue, but the speckling that we're getting is much, there's a lot more of the dark color. So yeah, it's a fun, I thought that would be a really fun thing to do, especially if, and this yarn, it's funny because this yarn might end up in like a de-stash sale. So I'm like, it doesn't have to be for someone but the fun thing that's about this particular song is so Keith and a bunch of my best friends who are in this band. And I don't personally have musical talent. So therefore, I was sort of the manager, and sometimes I would play the egg and just, like the but I was their biggest fan, and I would film them in concert and stuff, and it was just a lot of fun. But so as a surprise for our friends, we had the wedding band at our wedding, and usually you can ask a band to learn like 2 songs that aren't part of their list. So we asked them to learn one of the free parking songs. And so the second song at our wedding, and the one where we called everyone to the dance floor, we surprised, and I was actually able to keep it a secret. We surprised everyone by having them play a cover of one of the song that I put on this blank. And so I thought that was fun. How much food coloring is too much? Well, that depends. So I frequently, like with Wilton colors, my go-to is about a half teaspoon of the Wilton's icing color per 100 grams of yarn. But this honestly depends on the color you use. With black, I like to use a 1/4 teaspoon because I think that if I use a half teaspoon and I'm dip dyeing, that sort of starts to overpower the, oh goody, we're coming up on the light sections again. If I use if I use the half teaspoon with the black, it starts to overpower the breaking that I see, and so it's a little more extreme if I use the 1/4 teaspoon with black. But I forget, in the I Love Yarn Day live stream, I forget how much I mixed. If I used a half teaspoon for each of the colors that I mixed. And so that would be a total of 1.5 teaspoons of dye on 200 grams of yarn. So, it's ultimately, you have too much food coloring if after you dye the yarn, there's a lot of bleeding when you're rinsing it out. And that's just because at that point that you might have so much dye that it just didn't take. But I've learned recently that if you're dyeing silk blends and alpaca blends, you need a little more heat and vinegar when you are dyeing those yarns. So I think if you're hand painting one of those blends, you might need to make sure that you pre-soak in more vinegar than you might with wool, and that maybe you would want to do 3 rounds in the microwave or steam a little longer so the dye set. So those ones, I don't know if you would see more bleeding or not, but it's just something to keep in mind. You're knitting sock blanks by hand while watching me. Like caramel color. Ooh, that's fun. Yeah, I mean, you could, I made some of the sock blanks I made some out of like not a charcoal gray. It's more of a medium gray. And I Need to decide how I'm going to dye that. I think that in the kickoff, I will kind of share a bunch of the homemade blanks I've made and try to take suggestions of which ones I should use in which of the live stream specials. So, and I wanted to use homemade blanks because I know a lot of you are making your own blanks at home, which I think is really awesome. But these commercial blanks can be a little expensive, so therefore it's worth trying to make this as accessible to everyone as possible. And I enjoy. I mean, I just recently ordered a 20-pack of these commercial blanks because I really love them, but I also enjoy. It's relaxing to just use one of the crank machines and make my own blanks. I'm still hoping maybe I'll do that tomorrow with Lucas. Still want to make another double-stranded crochet blank. I have a single-stranded crochet bulky blank, but yeah, so give a little zoom in so you can kind of see at the top some of those colors from the message, but it's just very, very, very subtle accent. You're trying to dip dye 100 grams with green and it's just green. How much green did you add? I mean, I've used as many as I've used maybe at least 12 packets of Kool-Aid on one skein of yarn before. So I don't think I've really hit a limit. I think that the Wilton Color Right color performance system, some of those colors bled a bit more than I'm used to with food coloring, but some of those might be pretty intense. I got on the holiday cookie episode, the color was very red that I got on one end of that yarn. So my words, unraveling my words. But it's sort of, I was a little unsure how I felt about like all these different colors of specks, but I think that what's funny about it is that it almost reminds me of a tweed yarn. Not that this is tweed at all, there's no nubs, but having these sort of random color specks throughout the purple sort of makes me think about different colored and tweeds. So up here go the words. But see how easy these are to unravel? Now, if you're using yarn yourself, there's no reason why you need to unravel your blank into 2 skeins. One of the nice things about sock blanks is that you could decide to knit directly from your blank. So you could do 2 at a time socks or something from a double-stranded blank, or from a single-stranded blank, you can knit whatever, your hat, your scarf, directly from the blank as you're unraveling it. So there's no reason why you need to do this. It's just, I like that. Used a half teaspoon of Kelly Green. I think the Kelly Green, I dip dyed in the half teaspoon, and I think I got a bit, I think I was a little unsure if I was seeing blue at the end of the Kelly Green, and that's when I needed to revisit. Kelly Green is intense. I think I mostly, on that skein, it was mostly green throughout. I don't remember entirely, and I don't have it on hand here. I forget which live stream it was that I did the Kelly Green. If it was the first dip dye Wilton's Violet, or no, if it was the first like dip dye Wilton's, or the second. I don't know if the only acids that I really commonly see people use are vinegar, which is acetic acid, and so vinegar is acetic acid. I'm not sure if I misspoke there, and then citric acid. But I think that those are the 2 most common food safe ones. But certainly, I mean, it just depends on the pH. And I think at the concentration of vinegar I use, my pH might be a little bit higher than what some people recommend and some people like to use. But I find that the colors bind, and then, they're staying in the yarn, they're not rinsing out. So that's why I do it. But what's fun about this one, so this is a little different than some of the other ones, because you get, so it's not even quite a stripe because it's very like soft, but because of the pattern, we're going to have these fun sections of color. And I'm trying to see, there we go, if I can move it on the plane of the couch, but so you can still see it. But then, you know, in this section, oh, can I get close enough? Okay, it's focusing on me still, not on the yarn. So you can't quite see the cool colored specks that just give it a little something else. And I think it's taking me about, 25 minutes for each to unravel each skein. And I think so stroll I think is 240 something yards per 100 grams. So I'm doing, I could calculate how many times I have to flip this around because it's, 2 feet on each side. But I think I could go, if I wasn't chatting, I could maybe go a little faster. And some people, you could probably unravel onto a yarn swift as well. I've never wound a skein on my yarn swift before. I know some people like to do that. It might be a little hard to keep the two skeins separate, but having something that you could twist around would certainly be easier. Oh yeah, there's so many specks. I really like in the darker sections the way that those specks came out. In this one, it's not white. There's really no white here, but we've got sort of a deep, like purpley pink, and then we've got a paler, like a lavender. So so if we compare this to the other one, where in here we have the white specks. Yeah, the tiny. Oh, you love the specks from the markers? Awesome. Yeah, I'm not sure if you wanted. I'm not sure what to try if you wanted to try that without, say, the food markers. But I don't think I'd necessarily would want to use the food markers on a hank of yarn versus a blank, because I think it would be, I think my first thought was not necessarily soft blanks. I was like, ooh, you could add you could certainly put specks on yarn with that, but then you'd basically be drawing like each individual one. But I might still try it. I've got them. I'll play around with it. I was really impressed also because I had pre-soaked the blank when I used them, and I was concerned that they would not write well on the wet yarn. Mainly because I know that people use them on royal icing cookies, and those are pretty dry when you write on them. So I just didn't know if it would work. But it did. It worked great. It was just hard. Since it's not a paintbrush and it's a marker, it was just hard to draw on the yarn just because of the way that the fabric moved. But maybe I need to play around with the technique, and we'll try them in, I think, one of the live streams this week. Yeah, but so maybe if I was going to do this again, I might stick to one color, but I sort of like the fact that there's random colors that come through. Knitting yarn straight from the blank does change the look of your stitches as you knit, but once you block the knitting, it relaxes, right? Yeah, you can see the crimp that you get because since you've dyed the yarn, you've effectively blocked the blank already, and so that's why the crimp is so extreme. Maybe using a spray bottle on spritz could give the speck effect. Yeah, probably. So I'm trying to think what kind of spray bottles I have. So I got a Misto, which is a pressurized spray bottle. So I'm hoping that maybe I can get a color mist like effect with that. And then I also got, what was the other stuff I got? So I got the Misto, and I have these other little sort of pen spritzers that I got from Michaels. I shared them in one of my unboxings, but I don't remember what they're called. I probably listed them on I need to update the materials list from the die-along schedule. Oh, lots of questions. Yes, so when you're knitting straight from a blank, it's a little kinky, but it evens out in the wash when you block it. and you don't have a machine, you're making a blank by e-wrapping. Wait, what is e-wrapping? I do not know what e-wrapping is, but a regular gauge loom. I've never used, the only looms I've ever used are the ones that you, like for making an I-cord as a kid. So, but voila! All right, let me get, oof, nice and close. And of course, Miss Autofocus Camera. I haven't named her yet, but I have decided it's a her. But out of focus, you can kind of see the blues are showing up and maybe a bit of the red, but I can see over here like the black and the green and stuff. And I think it just adds an additional bit of interest, oof, to this blank. Okay. And then I'm going to tie off this end. I'm pretty bad when it comes to ties in general, but there. And so then on the Nitty Naughty, I can go and like spray these and let them dry. But when I'm sort of debating, I need to make another Nitty Naughty because I have a third blank over there that I really, really want to unravel. But I think that, so if I weren't in the middle of filming these episodes, if I had dyed these in a live stream and I was unraveling today for the recap, and unraveling today, then I would just take them off, soak it in some water and hang it up and it would be able to unkink. But I really want to film the yarns on the Nitty Naughty as I just unraveled it for those dyeing videos. And so that's why I'm not going to do the gray right away, I think, even though it makes me sad. But so therefore, I'm not going to tell you how I dyed this quite yet. But I mean, given that it's gray and black, it is Jacquard acid dyes. I'll tell you that much. And this is what's got me really excited. How pale the back is. And not to mention, you know, it started to unravel a bit and you just look at those specks. I mean, how cool is that? You can buy a blowing diffuser and cut out shapes from freezer paper to cover areas so they don't die. Yeah, so I've done freezer paper stenciling, but yeah, I guess because I didn't want to iron a blank, so I wasn't sure how you would get it on. But maybe this one will get unraveled, and I'm sure I'm going to have to do multiple unravelings over the next week. So in addition to the dyeing streams, the sock blank dyeing streams, there will probably also be some times when I pop on to unravel some of the blanks. It all depends on school schedules, health of children, and me. Hopefully I do not get a cold when I've planned hours and hours of live streams in a week. The E-wrapping is a fast stitch to do. Oh, cool. It makes a twisted stitch that looks cool. Oh, awesome. Yeah, I need to look more into loom knitting. I'm not sure how fast it is or anything like that, but I think it would be pretty cool. But anyway, thank you all so much for joining me tonight to unravel these two blanks. I think that these yarns are really, really pretty, and I'm really happy. So even with something that's a deep color, you still get some speckling to the yarn, which then when you knit it up, you know, that's not, if you were to just dip the whole skein really quickly, so you even had almost no gradient of color, you would still get this kind of speckling, a little bit of speckling, which would give a really nice, it's like a nice variation of a kettle dyed feel to your yarn. And I think would be really, really, really cool. But I really like, I'm going to need to play around with folding and dip dyeing the skeins. I like how subtle like the light dark is, and that's really, really fun. I'm really excited to play with all these different striping techniques. I really want to do some diagonal stripes and plan it in a way that would mean that you'd get really cool kind of stripes and color changes. And I think it would be, oh, it would be fun. But anyway, if you are interested in picking up some of these Knit Pick sock blanks that are really awesome, and as you just saw, were so easy to unravel, there's an affiliate link to them. And actually, do I have it? Won't let me post. Nope, it won't let me post it in the chat for some reason. But the link to them is in this video description. And so then, if I've convinced you to buy some, then you can shop through my link and I get some credit for the sale. But also, I believe that I have in the description the link to, yes, I have the link to the live stream schedule and stuff for the sock blank special next week. So that way you can, and soon, maybe tomorrow, I'll be making all the events for the live streams available so that way you can have the links saved. It's for some reason, even though I enter all my times as Eastern time, YouTube changes it and sort of shows it up in Pacific time. So then even me, when I look at the time displayed, it's not the time that I think it is. It's 3 hours off. So, I mean, it's the correct time in Pacific time given where I am now, but I don't know why Google shifts it. But yeah, I'm just really, really excited. And I think what I'm more excited about than doing all this dyeing and sharing these videos with you are seeing the dyeing project that you create, because I have ideas, but there's so many variations that can be done. Like someone in the Chemnitz Lab Facebook group was sharing they had a reclaimed sweater and they dyed the sleeves. And it's that's the ultimate kind of blank already, because, it's something, not only are you upcycling a sweater for the yarn, but then you can dye it in a cool way and you don't even have to make your own blank. So, yes. Hey, it's only 9 p.m. here and it's approaching bedtime for me too. But yeah, thank you so much for joining me tonight. And I look forward to all of these live streams next week. It's going to be so much fun. And I hope that since they're starting at all different times of day, some will start in my morning. So I guess at 12 hours different from now. Some will start, in the middle of the day. Some will start around the same time. So hopefully you might be able to make one, if not multiple. And it's going to be fun. Have you ever used colored yarn and then dyed more color over it? Yes, I have. There's a sock. Ooh, has that video come out? And there's a sock links, or there's a Dye Pot Weekly video where I over dyed highlighter yellow yarn. And I don't remember if that one has come out already. I think it has. I'm totally blanking on which ones have been published and which ones are just in the queue. But I also did a live stream with Easter egg dye tablets where I was over dyeing some gray yarn. And I have a medium gray sock blank that I made, a double stranded sock blank that we will dye in one of the streams for the sock blank special. So, but there are some other over dyeing type videos on the channel already. But yeah, so yeah, winding them onto a big flat box with works. There's many different. Oh, you tied the big flat box to your Swift. That's a good idea. Maybe my Swift feels so delicate, but yeah, maybe there's things that can be done to figure this out. Okay, the highlighter yellow, over dyeing highlighter yellow is out. Yeah, I thought it was, but for a second I was like, wait, I don't remember what number we're on, and so I was looking at all of them today. So then I lost track of what has been shared and what has not been shared yet. But tomorrow morning, the Dye Pot Weekly episode's a really special one. It features my youngest son dyeing his first ever skein of yarn. And then there's another bonus episode in the afternoon of Lucas using the dye that Ryder didn't finish to dye some yarn himself. So I now have a 2 skeins of yarn that are sort of a not matched, but a coordinating set. And so each kid did one. And so I need to come up with the best I think I need to make like a scarf or cowl out of it for me, so that way like I can be something warm and close to my body to snuggle with. But so those videos will be out the first one will be out in the morning. And if you're new to the channel and liked what you see tonight, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. And if you want, and if you've been a subscriber already, you can turn notifications on if you want to be notified when I do a live stream. You can also turn off the notifications if you don't want, to get like the pop up on your phone or whatever when I do a live stream. But yeah, this was fun. I like hanging out with all of you while I'm doing this. Yeah, the skeins are fun. And then tomorrow, I wanted to go wet them now, but I guess I'll have to wait until tomorrow with better lighting to film the end or the almost the end of those episodes so I can get the editing done. But anyway, have a wonderful evening, or if it's late, 3 in the morning for you, get a good sleep. If it's morning, if it's morning, then I hope you have a fantastic day. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining me tonight. And